A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back once again to the Vlog-A-Thon 6.0. So, we are at it for the last time discussing 2025 as a whole. And what I will have to say is that going from October 1st all the way to December 31st, when we wrapped up the year in style, well, let's just say there's a good amount of things to talk about just as well. Because first off, especially going back to September, one thing I hadn't really mentioned was the Illinois Railway Museum. Actually, two different things happened during that time. There was the Illinois Railway Museum, and there also was the Shalom Zoo in Kewaskum, Wisconsin. These were places that we had gone and revisited. Yes, I visited the Illinois Railway Museum last time in May 2024 when they had Chicago Northwestern weekend going on. And as for Shalom, well, I hadn't been there since August of 2021. And so, while I have mentioned it before and even had a nice big photo album dedicated to it, I can honestly say that for late 2025, that visit to Shalom in particular, in spite of what some people are speculating and having conspiracy theories about, is an incredible place to visit. I kid you not. This is a place that anyone should go ahead and visit at any given point in time. There's a good amount of rare and exotic animals out there. Plus, you really gotta hand it to them, the fact that they give you free ice cream on a trip, as well as a token made specifically for the likes of feeding animals, whether it be a giant group of goats, or even the likes of the horses and the bears. Yes, the bears. Let alone the horses and the goats. I mean, it's an experience I feel like nobody ought to forget. In fact, I've made a good handful of videos dedicated to the likes of the Shalom itself, some of which you can find on my channel just as well. But the point is that leading up to the last quarter of 2025, there also were a good handful of trips that took place just as well. For example, we went ahead back to Iowa that October in 2025 and revisited the likes of Boone Scenic Valley Railroad. Unlike the last time we had visited it, which was mainly for the likes of exploring the museum, rail fanning along the nearby Union Pacific Main Line, as well as heading down the likes of the former Chicago Northwestern lines that are nowadays run by the likes of various Boone Scenic Valley Railroad excursions. A good handful of memorable pieces include the Fraser Tour, which takes about 50 minutes to complete, and has a passenger train running up and down the line itself from the likes of Boone to the small community of Fraser, which was formerly known as a coal mining facility in which that a mine was formerly established, and the Chicago Northwestern Railroad was initially responsible for the likes of hauling coal and other materials back to Boone and surrounding communities. But what made our trip to Boone in 2025 different was the fact that we went ahead and booked a bit of a late-going trip in the form of Rail Explorers. Yeah, that's right. This sweater is basically no joke. They have, in fact, a Rail Explorers experience in Boone, Iowa itself, taking place on the same tracks as the Boone Scenic Valley Rail Line itself. And a lot of times this usually happens during the off-season, or of which that they happen after the days at the museum and regular excursion services are closed for the night. So, that trip was probably better than the last one. But to be fair, all experiences on the Boone Scenic Valley Railroad, as well as the nearby museum and the UP Main Line, alongside the many unique artifacts that Boone, Iowa has to offer, including a steam engine. No kidding. Crab Orchard in Egypt, number 17, the last steam locomotive to ever have been used, especially well into a time when diesels and electrics were all running all services. 1986 was the time in which they finally retired that engine, and since then it's been put up on public display as a special welcome sign to anyone entering the town of Boone itself. And I was more than glad that I stopped by and got a good picture and even a video of it. Who would have thought? Well, anyways though, that trip alone was huge, but we can definitely get into a few other things just as well. such as the likes of winter and Christmas. Christmas, of course, was huge, in which I won a big lottery ticket and was even mailed a lot of money, just as I did with 2024. It not only helped to recuperate the massive losses that I had gotten from my last car, but also as a means to help pay off my current car. I'd say it was a hell of a way to wrap up the year. But then we could really get to talk about the likes of movies that had come around just as well. There was Roof Man, which I unfortunately didn't see in theaters, but was able to see on Prime Video not too long ago. Yeah, Channing Tatum running naked in a Toys R Us. I don't know how you can get any more impressive than that. But if I really had to pick one eventful movie that, of course, was more than worthy of the time and money that I've spent, it would probably have to be Anaconda 2025. Yeah, Jack Black, the second film he's been in for 2025 since the Minecraft movie, as if we don't get enough Jack Black anymore. But then we also add in the likes of Paul Rudd and Steve Zahn. I don't know how you can get any more amazing than that. I've mentioned before, especially when I reviewed Anaconda 2025, that it was one hell of a way to wrap up the year. To have a Christmas movie like this, a remake of the famous Anaconda series, I'd say it was the best one so far, apart from the original and its line of sequels. Because after all, a number of things had gone around, whether it came to rebooting the franchise or creating more sequels. While we haven't gotten much of Ice Cube and Jon Voight, alongside many other original cast members in the franchise, we at least do get some returning roles in the franchise. Ice Cube, of course, does make a hell of a comeback here, and it's more than welcome. But you really gotta hand it to the fact that it's a crew of horrible idiots in the Amazon River whom lose their guide to a massive anaconda that's more fictionalized than you might imagine. So, when I talked about 2025 and the highs and lows, you could understand from a certain spectrum that I've had a lot to say about the year. There were a lot of amazing things about the year entirely, but it overall was a bigger, better year than 2024. While 2024 tried to hold on with its own unique rights, it didn't quite make the cut in a majority of ways. Mainly with the thyroiditis, the politics, and of course losing my car. So, a big three to really ruin a year. Thankfully, this didn't really happen in 2025. Although if you really want to count having my hand crushed, that was more of an accidental thing, rather than something that came up by surprise, or could have been intentional. Well, either way you look at it, this is all I gotta say about the year 2025. A big year, a better year, and overall, had a lot to talk about, just as I had said with the 2023 and 2024 series of vlogs right here on the Vlog-A-Thon. So, I will come back tomorrow with my piece for 2026 leading up to today. But if you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.